In temperatures so frigid that exhaling creates instant frost, the Inuit managed to stay warm through the night, without heaters, thick blankets, or electric comfort. While most people reach for the thermostat once it dips below 65 degrees Fahrenheit, the Inuit endure harsh Arctic nights at what feels like a cozy 84 degrees Fahrenheit inside their shelters. Their greatest ally, the body itself. Even while at rest, the human body radiates an impressive amount of heat, enough in a single day to bring nearly 2 gallons of water from freezing to a full boil. What sets the Inuit apart is their ability to conserve and circulate this heat efficiently. Rather than relying on external tools, they use time-tested methods designed to make the most of this internal energy source. It's a blend of adaptation, experience, and instinct passed down through generations. Nutrition plays a central role in how the Inuit battle the cold. Instead of winding down with a light snack, they prepare for sleep with meals rich in fat and calories. Raw seal blubber and fatty fish are common choices, foods that digest slowly and steadily release energy overnight. On extremely cold days, their calorie intake can rise to 6,000, with fat accounting for much of it. This high-energy fuel isn't consumed for indulgence. It's a survival mechanism. Modern science confirms that metabolizing fat and protein generates heat through thermogenesis, raising internal temperature naturally. For the Inuit, warmth begins with what's on the plate. The true power of the Inuit diet lies not just in the calories, but in the kind of fat they consume. Seal blubber and oily fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, fats that stay fluid even in freezing temperatures. This flexibility helps blood flow stay consistent, especially to the hands and feet, where circulation often suffers first in the cold. Equally important is when they eat. Consuming these high-energy meals roughly 2 hours before bedtime ensures their metabolism kicks into high gear during the night. That's when the body is most vulnerable to heat loss, as core temperature naturally drops. Scientific research backs this up. Digesting proteins and fats can raise the body's metabolic rate by nearly 30%. It acts like an internal heater, firing up just in time to fight off the chill of an Arctic night. There's another layer to the story, one that's built into the Inuit body itself. Over generations, they've developed a naturally higher resting metabolism. Studies show their basal metabolic rate can be as much as 50% greater than that of individuals living in warmer climates. In essence, their bodies produce more heat just by being still. It's the biological equivalent of carrying a portable heater everywhere. While a diet packed with animal fat might seem controversial today, in the extreme cold, it's pure logic. With fresh produce nearly impossible to find and no modern storage options, meat and fish provide both fuel and function, a diet molded perfectly by nature. There's something undeniably fascinating about how the Inuit handle freezing temperatures without any help from technology. While most of us rely on digital thermostats, heated blankets, or layers of insulation, they've mastered the art of keeping warm by tuning into the body's natural potential. Their way of life is a powerful reminder that the human body already has a built-in climate control system, one that works remarkably well when properly nourished and supported. But food alone doesn't tell the whole story. Thriving in sub-zero temperatures demands more than just a calorie-dense meal. It also involves understanding the environment and using it to your advantage, even the snow. It's easy to assume snow is just the frozen enemy, something to be avoided. But in the Arctic, snow becomes a tool for survival, one that shields instead of chills. At a chilling 84 degrees Fahrenheit below zero, snow isn't something the Inuit flee from. They build with it. Snow, surprisingly, is excellent insulation. That's because it can trap up to 95% air, and all those tiny air pockets act much like fiberglass insulation inside a home's walls. Inside a properly constructed igloo, temperatures can rise 30 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, higher than the outside air. So, if it's minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit outdoors, the inside might reach minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit, a dramatic and potentially life-saving improvement. It's not tropical, but it can mean the difference between frostbite and safe sleep. Constructing an igloo is more art than instinct. The Inuit seek compact, wind-hardened snow. Fluffy snow collapses, while icy snow lacks insulation. They cut blocks precisely and stack them in a tightening spiral to form a strong, dome-like shelter. The igloo entrance is placed low and away from the wind's direction. Inside, the sleeping area is raised higher than the doorway. This smart setup keeps the warmer air trapped up high and allows the denser, colder air to drift down and exit. Essentially, it's a naturally engineered heat management system shaped by centuries of wisdom. One of the most intriguing things about an igloo is how it actually becomes warmer the longer it's occupied. As people spend time inside, their body heat gently melts the inner surface of the snow walls. The thin layer of moisture then refreezes into ice, forming a glossy shell that locks in warmth even more effectively. This layer doesn't just seal in heat, it also limits air loss without stopping essential airflow, allowing those inside to breathe comfortably. Remarkably, a well-constructed igloo is so solid that it can support more than 200 pounds per square foot, strong enough to hold a fully grown adult on top. The secret behind this strength lies in the dome shape. It evenly spreads out any weight or pressure, a design nature figured out long before architects did. Igloo walls are usually between 4 to 8 inches thick, and Inuit builders adapt that thickness based on how cold it is outside. The colder the weather, the thicker the insulation. But igloos aren't the only structures they rely on. When time or conditions don't allow for a full build, the Inuit dig out snow caves or shape temporary windbreaks. Even a small wall of snow can dramatically cut down on wind chill. Studies have shown snow's thermal conductivity is surprisingly similar to fiberglass insulation found in many homes today. It's wild to think the same substance that shuts down city streets is also saving lives in the Arctic. Honestly, Snow Day might be better labeled Nature's Insulation Day. Beyond warmth and strength, snow shelters offer unexpected quiet. Inside an igloo during a storm, the noise outside fades. The same air pockets that trap body heat also dampen sound, creating a peaceful, silent bubble in the middle of chaos. The skill to create these shelters isn't learned in classrooms, it's passed from one generation to the next. Inuit children grow up observing and helping, mastering the craft as teens. By then, many can throw together a quick snow shelter, a survival skill far more practical than any gadget. And while central heating and insulated walls make modern homes cozy, there's a quiet beauty in what the igloo represents. A shelter made from the landscape, shaped by experience, and perfectly tailored to meet the cold on its own terms. It's the kind of structure that doesn't just preserve warmth, it empowers the body's own heat to shine. Staying alive in brutal cold involves more than just eating right or building the perfect shelter. It demands a deep understanding of how the body reacts to cold. While many instinctively bundle up in layer after layer, thinking more clothing equals more warmth, the Inuit have learned that too much insulation can actually work against you. Here's the catch. When the body starts to overheat, it sweats, even if it's 84 degrees Fahrenheit below zero outside. That sweat doesn't evaporate in the Arctic. Instead, it freezes or clings to your skin. Once that moisture cools, it rapidly pulls heat from the body, increasing the risk of hypothermia. So instead of protecting you, all those extra layers can lead to dangerous cooling. Sweating in such extreme cold becomes a liability. The moment your base layers get wet, they stop insulating and start draining warmth. It's like stepping into an icy lake wearing your winter clothes. Dry air can be managed, but moisture becomes deadly. That's why the Inuit practice a smart approach long before the term three-layer system was coined. Their method includes a breathable inner layer to pull moisture from the skin, a warming mid-layer to hold body heat, and a wind-blocking outer layer. But their real innovation, allowing air to move between layers. These trapped air pockets warm up and act as insulation themselves, much like the air gaps in a well-insulated house. Tight clothing ruins this balance by compressing those gaps and limiting blood flow, which only makes you colder. Temperature regulation is especially critical at night. Since the body's core temperature dips by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit during sleep, the Inuit make subtle adjustments to avoid overheating. They may loosen clothing or change layers before bed, not to cool down, but to prevent sweat from forming. They sleep on layers of dried plants topped with animal hides, a natural insulation system that prevents body heat from being absorbed into the cold ground. Studies show the ground can steal warmth up to 6 times faster than the air, making this practice essential. The guiding philosophy is simple: just enough, not too much. Overdressing before sleep often leads to sweating, and when that moisture cools, it triggers dangerous heat loss. Historical accounts confirm that many early Arctic explorers perished not from a lack of clothing, but from sweating inside poorly chosen layers. Inuit children are taught the value of proper layering from a young age, learning through experience how to recognize the right balance. If they feel slightly chilly when lying down, that's ideal. Once their body warms the space within the layers, they rest at a stable, safe temperature, all without needing a single modern thermostat. Modern sleeping bags may boast high-tech fabrics and compact designs, but they often overlook one crucial element: moisture control. Most are sealed systems designed to trap body heat, yet they struggle to manage sweat buildup effectively. In contrast, the Inuit rely on a smart layering system that balances warmth with ventilation. Their method lets excess heat and moisture escape while still preserving core body temperature. This principle isn't limited to full body wear. It's applied to mittens and footwear too, instead of one bulky layer. The Inuit wear several thin ones, with small air gaps in between. Even an airspace as thin as 1/8 of an inch can boost insulation performance by up to 40% compared to densely packed materials. Those pockets of air aren't wasted space. They're insulation in its most natural form. To the untrained eye, someone dressed lightly in frigid temperatures might seem underprepared, but the Inuit understand that bundling up too much can trap sweat and eventually lower body temperature. Their layered approach, built on experience rather than appearance, shows that staying warm is less about bulk and more about smart design. And while layering forms the framework for cold weather sleep, what you layer with matters just as much, especially when it comes to the material itself. Forget expensive gear stores and lab-tested fabrics. For Arctic survival, the Inuit have long trusted something unmatched in performance: caribou hide. This isn't just durable outerwear, it's nature's version of high-efficiency insulation. What makes caribou hide remarkable is its hollow fur. Each strand holds trapped air, and under a microscope, the hair looks like thousands of miniature thermos flasks. These microchambers form a barrier that locks in body heat with impressive efficiency. In fact, testing has shown that caribou hide provides nearly double the insulation per inch when compared to modern synthetic materials. A caribou hide sleep covering weighing around 4 pounds can rival the warmth of a synthetic bag weighing 7 pounds, a major advantage in survival settings where every pound matters. Caribou hide also contains natural oils that help it repel moisture while staying breathable. This crucial feature helps prevent the dangerous sweat-then-freeze cycle. Unlike cotton, which loses up to 90% of its insulation when wet, caribou hide maintains warmth even when exposed to damp conditions. The timing of the harvest is everything. Caribou are typically hunted in late fall, just after they've developed their thick winter coats. Too soon, and the fur isn't ready. Too late, and the animals migrate beyond reach. Once harvested, the hides are processed using time-honored methods: scraping, stretching, and smoking. Techniques that protect the integrity of the hide without stripping its insulating oils. When turned into sleeping covers, the fur side is placed inward, directly against the body. This allows the hairs to trap warmth close to the skin while still letting moisture escape. With a single caribou, the Inuit can craft a complete, breathable, and highly efficient sleeping system, engineered by nature and perfected through generations of hands-on knowledge. Caribou hide doesn't just insulate, it adapts. One of its most impressive traits is how the hollow fibers in its fur subtly respond to warmth. As body heat builds up, the tiny air chambers within each hair expand slightly, creating an even tighter thermal seal. It's like wearing a sleeping bag that automatically adjusts to your body's needs without any zippers or toggles. Outdoor gear manufacturers have tried for decades to recreate this kind of dynamic insulation. Many have developed synthetic fills designed to mimic hollow fibers, but none truly match caribou hide's natural performance in freezing conditions. Despite technological advances, nature's solution remains superior. Caribou hide isn't just effective, it's incredibly durable. While most synthetic sleeping bags start to degrade after 5 to 10 years of use, well-maintained caribou hide coverings can endure for decades. In some Inuit families, they're passed down as heirlooms, proving that traditional craftsmanship can outlast even the most rugged modern gear. And then there's the silence. Anyone who's camped in a nylon bag knows how noisy synthetic materials can be. Every shift in position creates a crinkly chorus. For the Inuit, who often need to remain quiet while hunting or sleeping in close quarters, caribou hide offers quiet, undisturbed rest. With all that in mind, it's tempting to rebrand this knowledge as Caribou Tech, nature's original and unmatched sleeping system. While we chase cutting-edge materials, the Inuit have been sleeping in silence and warmth thanks to age-old wisdom. When it comes to sleeping posture, the Inuit know that comfort isn't just about softness, it's about heat retention. While sprawling out in bed might feel nice in a heated home, it's a terrible choice in extreme cold. Instead, the preferred position is the fetal posture, knees tucked toward the chest, arms drawn in. This compact pose reduces surface area and limits exposure to cold air. Research shows that curling up can reduce heat loss by up to 30% compared to lying flat, a critical difference when the outside temperature falls below -60 degrees Fahrenheit. The science behind this is straightforward. Heat escapes from the body through radiation, conduction, convection, and evaporation. A compact posture minimizes radiative loss and keeps warmth concentrated around the core. Think of it like a sphere, a shape that holds heat more efficiently than a stretched out form. There's also a survival advantage to this position. In extreme cold, the body restricts blood flow to the limbs to protect vital organs, a process known as vasoconstriction. By keeping arms and legs close to the torso, you reinforce that natural response and maintain warmth where it matters most. Inuit sleepers often tuck their hands between their thighs or under their arms, areas dense with blood vessels that act as natural heat zones. Protecting the fingers, which are vulnerable due to their high surface area to volume ratio, becomes especially important in these conditions. The face, too, needs protection. Curling the chin toward the chest forms a pocket of warm air around the mouth and nose, helping to reduce heat loss and warm the air before it reaches the lungs. This small adjustment makes breathing more efficient and minimizes the body's energy use for heating. Together, posture and smart positioning turn the body into a compact self-heating unit, guided not by technology, but by tradition and instinct. In Arctic survival, posture matters just as much as clothing or shelter. One of the first lessons learned from generations of Inuit wisdom is to avoid sleeping flat on your back. At first glance, it may seem like the most natural resting position, but in extreme cold, it becomes a liability. When lying on your back, the spine makes continuous contact with the surface beneath you. This broad contact area increases conductive heat loss, drawing warmth away from the body and into the ground. In contrast, sleeping on your side reduces the contact zone, limiting how much heat your body loses while at rest. If mattress companies ever designed products based on principles of thermal efficiency rather than comfort, their advertisements would sound very different, probably focusing less on pressure relief and more on limiting surface contact to preserve warmth. Minimizing body movement is another critical factor. Most people shift positions 15 to 20 times a night, but every movement in extreme cold breaks the warm air seal that has formed around the body. Each shift invites in cold air and forces the body to expend more energy reheating that pocket. The ideal in Arctic conditions is to find one efficient sleeping position, usually curled on your side, and maintain it as long as possible. Stillness becomes a heat-saving tactic. The feet, often the first to feel the cold, are treated with careful attention in traditional Inuit sleep setups. Instead of leaving the feet extended or spread apart, they're positioned strategically to retain heat. Crossing the ankles or keeping the feet stacked helps reduce surface exposure. Some Inuit sleepers go a step further, literally, by tucking their feet behind their opposite knees. This creates a closed loop that keeps warmth circulating around the lower limbs. When sleeping in groups, positioning becomes even more tactical. Rather than sleeping scattered across a room, Inuit families often sleep in coordinated formations. The most common is the spooning arrangement, where everyone lies in the same direction, close together, with bodies aligned. This layout minimizes the combined surface area exposed to the cold and maximizes shared heat. It's an application of practical geometry: reduce exposure, increase contact. While popular health magazines might focus on sleep positions for spinal alignment or snoring reduction, the Inuit approach is based on necessity, not comfort. These arrangements have kept people alive in conditions far more extreme than the average winter's night. Sleep in the Arctic is rarely a solitary activity. When temperatures plummet, the smartest approach is to share both the space and the warmth. Sleeping in groups isn't just cultural tradition. It's a survival system that transforms individual warmth into collective insulation. The science behind it is simple. A single sleeping person emits about 300 British thermal units of heat every hour. That's roughly equal to the warmth from a 100-watt light bulb. Now, imagine 3 or 4 people sleeping close together. You've essentially created the equivalent of a small heater, powered entirely by biology. This shared body heat doesn't require firewood or electricity. It's renewable, self-sustaining, and instantly available when people sleep together in tight formations. In Inuit households, group sleeping areas are the norm. Family members, especially during the coldest nights, rest in a shared space that turns individual warmth into communal survival. This method isn't unique to humans. Emperor penguins do the same in Antarctica. They huddle together, rotate positions, and use shared body heat to survive the continent's brutal winters. The concept is simple. The more living bodies in close contact, the warmer the environment becomes. Measurements taken inside traditional group sleeping areas show impressive results. A small group of 4 to 6 individuals can raise the temperature inside an enclosed space by 8 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit above the baseline temperature. That increase could be the difference between suffering frostbite and sleeping through the night comfortably. The arrangement of sleepers is intentional. Younger children are usually nestled between adults to benefit from heat on both sides. Elders, who may produce less body heat, are kept near the center, while hardier individuals take outer positions to serve as thermal buffers. Sleeping close together also cuts down on total body heat loss. When two people lie back to back, they shield one entire side of their bodies from exposure to cold air. This positioning reduces heat loss through radiation and convection by up to 25% compared to sleeping apart. But the benefits go beyond temperature. Arctic winters are long, dark, and psychologically taxing. Sharing sleep space helps maintain emotional well-being. Physical closeness fosters a sense of safety, reassurance, and connection, which can make a huge difference during months of darkness and isolation. Generational knowledge has shaped this system with precision. Families develop unspoken routines. When one person shifts, others subtly adjust to maintain the warm air pocket. Children learn early to synchronize their movements, even their breathing, to preserve the collective warmth. It's a subtle, intuitive system. There's no need for alarms, timers, or thermostats. Just instinct, cooperation, and trust. Qualities that can't be manufactured, only passed down. Inuit group sleeping isn't just a habit. It's a beautifully efficient survival design, proven by time, temperature, and tradition. Modern Arctic explorers have learned to respect and adopt the hard-earned wisdom of the Inuit, especially when conditions become extreme. In survival scenarios where the cold can feel inescapable, shared sleeping arrangements aren't just practical, they're life-saving. Many experienced travelers now forego solo tents in favor of group shelters, understanding that the heat produced by multiple bodies is far more effective than any single high-tech sleeping bag. In some ways, the Arctic may be the only place on Earth where sleeping shoulder to shoulder with your extended family becomes a matter of survival. Suddenly, the familiar sound of Uncle Joe's snoring is no longer a nuisance. It's part of the heating strategy. This practice isn't just limited to humans. Traditional working dogs, especially sled teams, instinctively huddle in circular formations at night. The dogs take turns sleeping on the outer edge, rotating positions so no one animal spends too long exposed. The Inuit took note of this natural system, recognizing that strategies honed by Arctic-adapted animals could be wisely mirrored by humans. What keeps a sled dog alive in the snow can just as easily save a person. For people raised in cultures that prioritize personal space, the idea of close proximity sleeping can be jarring. Western visitors to Arctic communities sometimes find it challenging to sleep inches from others, but comfort quickly takes a back seat to necessity when the temperature dips. Those who embrace the method soon see its undeniable benefits. Thermal imaging provides a striking visual. A solo sleeper radiates heat that dissipates into the environment, while a tightly clustered group retains warmth, showing a single merged heat signature. The science is simple. Shared warmth slows the rate of heat loss dramatically. What this shows, more than anything, is that cooperation isn't just kind or efficient. It's critical for survival. The cold punishes isolation. It rewards collaboration. In Arctic environments, even sleep becomes a team effort. While proper positioning and carefully chosen materials help build the thermal barrier, it's the act of gathering together that transforms cold from a threat into something manageable. No cords, no gas heaters, just human bodies working as nature intended. Of course, body heat only goes so far. In the coldest conditions, certain body parts require extra attention. Fingers, toes, noses, and ears. These extremities are the most vulnerable when temperatures plummet. Positioned farthest from the heart, they receive less blood flow and are often the first to freeze. At temperatures around 84 degrees Fahrenheit below zero, the human body begins prioritizing internal organs. Blood is redirected away from limbs in a protective measure known as vasoconstriction. It keeps your brain and heart warm, but sacrifices comfort and sometimes function in the hands and feet. To counter this natural defense mechanism, the Inuit developed highly specific clothing strategies that focus on both warmth and circulation. Their goal isn't just to trap heat, it's to protect the most at-risk parts of the body without causing sweating or restricting blood flow. When it comes to hand protection, the Inuit use oversized mittens called Qulliq. These aren't the tight-fitting gloves most people are used to. Instead, they're intentionally roomy, allowing warm air to circulate inside. This air gap, heated by the body, serves as a buffer against the cold. Scientific tests back up this approach. Mittens that allow for an insulating pocket of air can be up to 40% warmer than snug gloves made from the same materials. The Qulliq are usually constructed in 2 layers. The inside is lined with caribou fur side inward for maximum insulation, and the outer shell is made from sealskin, naturally water-resistant and windproof. Together, these layers manage internal moisture and external cold, handling the sweat your body produces while guarding against snow and freezing wind. Long before synthetic materials existed, this was already high-performance gear, crafted from necessity and passed down through generations. The feet demand just as much care, if not more. Traditional Inuit boots, known as Qulliq, are ingeniously designed for both flexibility and dryness. They include multiple removable layers, each serving a specific purpose. The most unique feature, the use of dried grass as an inner layer. This isn't just padding, it's functional insulation. The grass absorbs moisture from the feet during the day, then is replaced at night with fresh, dry material. This rotation keeps feet dry and warm while sleeping, which is crucial in temperatures where dampness means rapid heat loss. Anyone who's hiked in wet socks understands how quickly discomfort can turn into danger. The Inuit discovered a low-tech, highly effective solution generations ago, one that modern adventurers are just now learning to respect. Long before moisture-wicking socks and breathable synthetics hit the market, the Inuit had already mastered the art of managing moisture using natural materials and daily rituals. Instead of a sock drawer, their solution came straight from nature. Dry grass, carefully selected, cleaned, and swapped out daily to keep feet dry. This simple but brilliant method prevented dampness from accumulating, ensuring warmth during sleep and travel alike. Head protection received equally strategic attention. Since the head can lose up to 45% of total body heat if left uncovered, the Inuit treated it as a priority. Traditional hoods were equipped with a fur trim, called a ruff, typically made from wolf or wolverine. This wasn't just for style. The fur created a windbreak, forming a microclimate around the face. Wolf fur is uniquely suited to this purpose because it resists accumulating frost from exhaled breath. While other materials freeze over and harden, wolf fur remains flexible and free of ice buildup, keeping the face dry and safe. The combination of airflow control and frost resistance made it the perfect material for protecting one of the most exposed and vulnerable parts of the body. Warming up before bed isn't just about getting comfortable. It's a ritual rooted in survival. Many Inuit begin by stimulating blood flow to their extremities. This includes massaging the hands and feet, warming key pressure points like the inside of the wrists or the neck, and even placing chilled fingers under the arms or against the stomach. Rather than applying direct heat, they use body warmth for a gradual rewarming process. This prevents rewarming injury, a condition where tissues damaged by cold become further harmed if heated too quickly. Modern doctors now teach this very same approach when treating frostbite. Rapid heating of extremely cold skin can cause blood vessels to rupture or nerves to become damaged. By using their own bodies to gently bring hands and feet back to a safe temperature, the Inuit developed a medical-grade survival tactic centuries before it was documented in textbooks. To stay warm through long Arctic nights, The Inuit also created sleep-specific mittens and boots. These weren't just everyday gear, they were custom items made exclusively for resting hours. Looser in fit than daytime wear, these pieces allowed better blood circulation while still trapping body heat effectively. Some even had small compartments designed to hold heated materials, like warm stones or dried moss, that had been pre-warmed near a fire. These simple heat sources added an extra layer of insulation and could help maintain warmth through the coldest parts of the night. At temperatures as low as -40 degrees Fahrenheit, frostbite can begin forming in under 10 minutes on exposed skin. At -60 degrees, that danger window drops to just 5 minutes. There's no margin for error. Proper extremity protection during sleep isn't about comfort. It can determine whether you wake up safe or suffer lasting damage to fingers, toes, ears, or worse. Once the hands and feet are secure, the next major challenge is breathing. In temperatures like -84 degrees Fahrenheit, simply inhaling can become a hazard. Breathing too quickly or directly into cold air can cause freezing condensation on facial skin, or even damage internal tissues. The Inuit developed refined breathing techniques to manage this risk. One challenge is that every exhalation releases moisture. In this extreme cold, that moisture turns to frost immediately and can build up around the mouth, nose, and hood lining. Over time, this ice can create uncomfortable, even dangerous exposure points against the skin. To combat this, many Inuit partially cover their mouth and nose with a thin layer of fur or fabric. This isn't about sealing out the cold completely. It's about warming the incoming air. This small pocket traps exhaled heat and moisture, tempering the next breath. Studies show this technique can raise the temperature of inhaled air by as much as 15 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to reduce strain on the lungs and limit the cold shock to the respiratory system. Breathing also slows down intentionally. Instead of taking rapid breaths, the Inuit adopt a slower, more measured rhythm. Where the average person might take 12 to 20 breaths per minute, Arctic dwellers often reduce that to 8 to 10. Fewer, deeper breaths mean less exposure to freezing air and more efficient heating of each breath. Finally, the route the air takes into the body matters. Breathing through the mouth bypasses the body's natural defense system. The nose, with its network of blood-rich tissue, warms and humidifies each breath before it enters the lungs. This is vital because at -64 degrees Fahrenheit, direct inhalation can trigger bronchospasms, tightening of the airways that makes breathing difficult and painful. In extreme cases, it can even lead to cold-induced lung injuries, resembling internal frostbite. By relying on nasal breathing, warming the air with layered coverings, and slowing their respiratory rate, the Inuit developed a complete system to protect one of the body's most delicate systems, its breath. Some traditional Inuit shelters include a clever feature that's both subtle and powerful: a narrow breathing tunnel near the sleeper's face. This small passage allows air to enter without exposing the entire face to the bitter cold. As the air moves through the narrow channel, the surrounding walls warm it slightly, acting as a natural heat exchanger. This kind of passive warming system requires no fuel, no moving parts, just thoughtful design. The concept of moisture control extends far beyond how the Inuit breathe. Many sleep with a fur-lined hood or blanket drawn completely over their head, enclosing the air they exhale. At first glance, this might seem like a bad idea. Wouldn't the area become damp and uncomfortable? But traditional materials behave differently. Unlike cotton or synthetic fabrics that trap moisture and become cold, natural fur absorbs and redistributes humidity without compromising warmth. Even when slightly damp, fur continues to provide insulation. It doesn't chill like modern materials. Instead, it maintains a soft warmth, helping to preserve heat without accumulating dangerous wetness. Another incredible adaptation is how the Inuit synchronize their breathing with their level of activity. During periods of movement or exertion, the body generates heat, so inhaling cold air becomes less risky. But when it's time to rest, especially during sleep, breathing slows down in response to the body's cooling process. Managing this transition is crucial. If breathing remains too shallow or rapid during sleep, it can lead to rapid moisture buildup around the mouth and nose. That's when problems arise. Ice may form on facial hair, eyelids can freeze shut, and an uncomfortable crust of ice might develop on the skin. In such conditions, waking up with an ice mask is more than just unpleasant, it's dangerous. While modern cold weather gear manufacturers have developed face masks and balaclavas with breathable synthetic panels and thermal exchangers, few can match the effectiveness of Inuit designs. Travelers often report that modern materials still fall short when it comes to breathability, moisture control, and long-term comfort. Despite technological advances, the principles remain unchanged. Modern adventurers in the Arctic still learn traditional breathing methods, not out of nostalgia, but out of necessity. Knowing how to breathe properly means Arctic sleepers can rest deeply, even in temperatures where the air could otherwise harm them. But protecting breath and body is only one part of the warmth equation. The next question is even trickier. How do you safely warm a home made entirely of snow without causing it to melt? The Inuit answered this with the Qulliq, a seal oil lamp that serves as both heater and light source. Ingenious in its simplicity, the Qulliq radiates steady, gentle warmth, providing just enough heat to maintain livable temperatures inside a snow shelter, without threatening the structure itself. The traditional Inuit lamp, known as the Qulliq, is far more than a simple flame. It's a carefully engineered survival tool that uses natural materials to create a controllable, efficient heat source. At first glance, it might appear basic, a shallow stone bowl filled with rendered seal blubber and lined with a wick made from dried moss or Arctic cotton grass. But the performance of this low-tech design is nothing short of remarkable. When lit, the wick draws seal oil along its edge, producing a steady, manageable flame. The Qulliq isn't designed for large bursts of heat, but rather for consistent warmth and long-lasting light. A well-tended lamp can produce between 100 and 400 British thermal units per hour, enough to raise the temperature inside an igloo by 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That's sufficient to create a livable environment inside a shelter made entirely from snow, without melting the structure. The flame's intensity is easily adjusted by increasing or reducing the exposed wick length, or by lighting more than one wick at a time. This precise control allows the Inuit to fine-tune the heat output to match weather conditions or time of day. Lamp placement matters just as much as its design. The Qulliq is usually set on a raised stone slab or a specially flattened platform made from snow. From this elevated position, it warms the air above it, triggering a gentle convection current that distributes heat throughout the shelter. This creates an even natural circulation system, keeping the space comfortable without direct contact between the flame and the snow walls. The lamp is also impressively fuel efficient, critical in a place where every resource must be conserved. 1 pound of seal oil can keep the lamp burning for up to 16 hours. During hunting seasons, the Inuit harvest and carefully render seal blubber, turning it into oil that remains usable even in freezing temperatures. It's a clean, renewable, and reliable energy source, long before such ideas were part of modern sustainability trends. But warmth is just one role the Qulliq plays. It also serves as a central hub for daily life, used for cooking food, melting snow for water, and drying damp clothing. Every bit of heat it gives off is put to work. In modern terms, it's like combining your kitchen stove, water heater, and dryer into one energy-efficient appliance. Managing this heat requires care and experience. If the flame burns too hot, it can begin to melt the inside walls of the igloo. But interestingly, this isn't always a problem. A controlled melt followed by a refreeze creates a layer of ice on the interior surface, which strengthens the igloo structure and enhances its insulating power. When used skillfully, the lamp actually helps improve the home's durability over time. Though smoke production from the Qulliq is minimal, it carries an unexpected benefit. Tiny particles of oil suspended in the air slowly settle onto fabrics hanging above the flame. Over time, this coats clothing with a light waterproof layer, helping protect it from moisture. This passive treatment shows the depth of Inuit understanding. Each element of their lifestyle serves multiple functions. At night, the lamp is typically adjusted to a lower flame to preserve fuel while still maintaining warmth. The soft, flickering light it casts also provides a sense of peace and stability during the long, dark Arctic winters. With daylight absent for months, that gentle glow offers psychological comfort as well as heat. Modern researchers have studied the efficiency of traditional Qulliq designs and found them surprisingly effective. Tests show that as much as 70% of the fuel's energy is converted into usable heat, on par with modern space heaters, yet achieved with nothing more than stone, moss, and seal oil. A critical part of this success is wick maintenance. An experienced hand can adjust the wick precisely, even without light. Too short, and the flame falters. Too long, and it smokes excessively or burns through fuel too quickly. Skilled users often develop such a sense of touch that they can make wick adjustments while half asleep, responding instinctively to changes in heat or airflow inside the shelter. The Qulliq is not just a lamp, it's a quiet masterpiece of traditional engineering, developed through centuries of survival and perfectly suited to its frozen world. Health researchers have been intrigued by the surprisingly clean burn of traditional seal oil lamps. Compared to many early heating methods, such as coal or wood stoves, the Qulliq produces fewer harmful emissions when properly maintained. Its flame relies on clean-burning seal oil, releasing primarily carbon dioxide and water vapor, with minimal soot or carbon monoxide. For a tool developed centuries ago, it's remarkably health-conscious. In homes where ventilation is limited and conditions harsh, that matters immensely. The Inuit weren't just staying warm, they were avoiding respiratory issues that plagued other traditional communities using smoke-heavy fuels. With breathing practices fine-tuned for frigid air and a consistent, low-emission heat source in place, the next step in Arctic sleeping is choosing where to rest. In a space where a few feet can mean the difference between warmth and freezing, selecting the proper sleeping spot becomes as important as what you wear. Inside an igloo, every inch of elevation can count. The most fundamental rule of igloo sleeping arrangements: sleep high. Cold air naturally settles, while warm air rises. A basic law of thermodynamics that becomes critical when it's minus 64 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Measurements taken inside igloos show a striking 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit temperature difference between floor level and elevated areas. That's why Inuit builders always create raised sleeping benches. These snow platforms are typically constructed 2 to 3 feet above the igloo floor, placing sleepers directly into the warmest pocket of air without crowding the dome's apex. It's a perfect balance: warm, safe, and structurally sound. The sleeping platform is more than just elevated, it's thoughtfully sculpted. Usually covering about half the igloo's floor space, it's gently concave, forming a shallow dip where sleepers can nestle in. This shape helps concentrate body warmth, reducing air movement and keeping heat localized. Slightly raised edges prevent accidental rolling, especially when multiple people share the platform. Strategic location matters too. The coldest air always gathers near the entrance, so the platform is placed at the far end, farthest from any drafts. Traditional igloos also feature a sunken entrance tunnel, designed to trap incoming cold air in a low zone, preventing it from flowing upward into the living space. These architectural choices transform the igloo from a snow dome into a carefully tuned shelter. Another factor in sleeping spot design is the position relative to the Qulliq. While the lamp's heat helps warm the entire structure, sleeping directly above it would be uncomfortable and inefficient. Instead, the platform is arranged to capture the lamp's radiant warmth without subjecting sleepers to intense, localized heat. When multiple people share the space, placement becomes strategic. Children and elders, more vulnerable to cold, are given the warmest spots, often toward the center and slightly elevated areas. Adults, especially those in good health, sleep closer to the cooler outer zones, forming a human insulation layer around the more sensitive sleepers. It's an organic arrangement where warmth is shared and distributed according to need. Temperature tracking inside traditional igloos confirms how effective these designs are. Even when the outside temperature drops to -58 degrees Fahrenheit, the sleeping platform can maintain a relatively stable range between -10 degrees and -5 degrees Fahrenheit. Still cold, yes, but far more manageable, especially when combined with proper layering, fur-lined coverings, and group sleeping strategies. As people sleep and breathe, they generate warmth and moisture, slowly creating a microclimate inside the igloo. This warm, moist air rises and gently melts the inner dome's surface. That layer soon refreezes into smooth ice, forming a better insulator and sealing the shelter more tightly against the cold. Even the smallest construction detail plays a role. Builders often shape the edge closest to the igloo's center slightly higher than the outer edge. This gentle slope helps trap warm air in the sleeping zone, preventing it from spilling down into colder areas. It's subtle but effective. Another example of how Inuit design turns snow into survival, with craftsmanship that rivals modern insulation science. Imagine having a built-in thermal barrier right beneath your bed, customized to trap heat and block cold. That's exactly what the Inuit create with their sleeping platforms. Even when perfectly positioned at the warmest height inside the igloo, the platform isn't used bare. Before any sleeping furs are laid down, the surface is lined with a layer of natural insulation, often made from dried grass, willow branches, or boughs. This layer creates a crucial buffer of air between the sleeper and the cold snow platform. That air gap reduces conductive heat loss, keeping body warmth from leaching into the frozen base. It's a simple but vital system that turns snow into a functional bed foundation. While modern homes burn energy to maintain an even room temperature from floor to ceiling, the Inuit focus their heat precisely where it matters, around the body at rest. It's like living inside a smart home designed not with high-tech sensors, but with practical, adaptive knowledge honed over centuries. Not a single British thermal unit of warmth is wasted. But the insulation strategy doesn't stop with grass and furs. On the coldest nights, many Inuit families turn to a time-tested source of warmth: their sled dogs. These hard-working animals are more than transportation. They're also sleeping companions and living heaters. Inuit dogs are built for the cold. Their fur is a marvel of insulation engineering, with dense undercoats filled with air-trapping fibers and moisture-repelling outer layers. Even in damp conditions, dog fur can retain up to 80% of its insulating properties, far outperforming many other natural fibers. The relationship between the Inuit and their dogs runs deep. It's not just about companionship or function. It's survival synergy. When heat is in short supply, every reliable source becomes part of the plan. During the harshest nights, sled dogs are welcomed into the sleeping area. Each dog, with a body temperature around 101 to 102 degrees Fahrenheit, becomes a personal heater. A medium-sized dog produces roughly 300 British thermal units of body heat. Multiply that by a team, and it rivals a small residential heater. Dogs typically curl up at the end of the sleeping platform, where they naturally warm the sleeper's feet and lower limbs, areas most prone to heat loss. This setup benefits both parties. The dogs gain shelter from biting winds and frost, while the humans receive radiant heat from their furry companions. It's not a last resort, it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, optimized over generations. The usefulness of sled dogs continues even after the season ends. As they shed during molting, the Inuit gather their undercoat fur and spin it into lightweight blankets. These handmade covers are remarkably warm and water-resistant thanks to the fur's natural oils. Unlike synthetic materials, which can trap moisture or lose performance when wet, dog fur continues to insulate effectively even under challenging conditions. The soft undercoat is highly prized for its warmth-to-weight ratio. Modern luxury bedding may promise 5-star sleep, but nothing competes with the quiet, powerful insulation of a few resting sled dogs beside you on a minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit night. But even the best insulation fails if moisture creeps in. In Arctic survival, moisture is often more dangerous than the cold itself. At minus 84 degrees Fahrenheit, dampness becomes an immediate threat. Any moisture trapped in clothing or bedding rapidly freezes, pulling heat away from the body at a dangerous rate. The Inuit respond to this risk with disciplined moisture control. Sweat, often overlooked in cold environments, is a major concern during sleep. Even small amounts of perspiration can cut the effectiveness of fur or clothing in half. Before bed, it's standard practice to remove any damp layers. These garments are then carefully hung near the Qulliq, where the lamp's gentle heat dries them slowly, preserving the integrity of the natural materials. This daily habit, small and consistent, ensures warmth, stays where it belongs, and frost never has a chance to form. In the Arctic, survival is won through these quiet rituals, passed down not just by words, but by action. Before anyone settles into bed inside a traditional Inuit shelter, there's one more important ritual: removing snow from clothing and gear. Snow on the surface might seem harmless, but if left to melt indoors, it turns into moisture, the real enemy in Arctic sleeping conditions. Every jacket, boot, and mitten is carefully brushed off before entering the sleeping area. If even a few flakes sneak in and start to melt into bedding or fur, they're removed immediately. The reason is simple: snow can be brushed away, but water stays. As modern outdoor enthusiasts like to say, you can brush off snow, but you have to live with water. It's a principle the Inuit have practiced for generations. But snow isn't the only moisture source. Breathing alone introduces a surprising amount of water into the air. Over 8 hours of sleep, the average person exhales nearly 1 cup of water vapor. Without proper ventilation, this moisture can dampen insulation materials. That's why traditional face coverings are designed not only to protect the face, but to direct exhaled air away from the sleeping furs. Even sleeping positions are chosen to prevent condensation from collecting in critical areas. Even dietary choices come into play. Eating foods that cause excessive sweating, like overly spicy or energy-dense meals, can increase overnight moisture. The Inuit often avoid such foods before sleep. It's another example of how their survival strategy doesn't treat eating, sleeping, and movement as separate needs, but as interconnected parts of a full system. Each decision, what to wear, where to lie, what to eat, is part of a larger philosophy. That's how they don't just survive Arctic nights, but sleep comfortably through them. Modern campers invest in moisture-wicking fabrics marketed for hundreds of dollars. But centuries ago, the Inuit mastered moisture management using nothing but natural materials, without ever needing to worry about synthetic fabrics breaking down after a few wears. When moisture becomes too difficult to manage passively, the solution isn't more gear, it's heat. Specifically, targeted, reusable heat. Long before electric blankets or disposable heat packs, the Inuit relied on heated stones to warm their beds. It starts with choosing the right rocks, dense, smooth stones capable of holding heat without cracking or overheating. These stones are placed near the Qulliq and warmed slowly to an ideal temperature, hot enough to radiate warmth for hours, but not so hot that they burn furs or skin. Once ready, the stones are wrapped in fur or soft hide to insulate the heat and protect the sleeper. They're then placed at strategic spots, usually the feet, lower back, or any place that's prone to losing warmth. The stones act like slow-releasing thermal batteries, offering steady comfort through the coldest hours of the night. The beauty of this method lies in its precision. Instead of wasting energy heating an entire space, the stones focus warmth where the body needs it most. A properly prepared stone can stay warm for 4 to 6 hours, just enough to get through the worst of the Arctic chill. Beyond warming people, these stones serve other roles. They can be used to dry small items like mittens, warm sleeping furs before use, or even ease sore muscles after a day of trekking or hunting. Some stones are chosen or carved to fit specific body shapes, creating custom comfort solutions. While many modern campers rely on single-use chemical warmers, the Inuits' heated stones are fully sustainable, endlessly reusable, and entirely biodegradable. Think of them as nature's original hot water bottle, reliable, silent, and guaranteed never to burst at the seams. The warmth and physical relief provided by tools like heated stones, dry furs, and body heat offer more than just comfort. They create the foundation for something even more essential: mental resilience. Arctic survival isn't just a battle against freezing temperatures, it's also a test of psychological strength. The endless night, the harsh silence, and the sting of cold can chip away at the mind long before the body gives out. But the Inuit have long known that mental calm is as important as physical warmth. One key strategy: controlled rhythmic breathing. Rather than fixating on the cold, Inuit sleepers focus their attention inward, using slow, steady breath to calm the nervous system and reduce the sensation of discomfort. This approach isn't just instinct, it's backed by science. Studies have found that slow, measured breathing can lower cortisol levels by up to 20%. With lower stress comes a reduced perception of cold, better decision-making, and less panic in high-risk moments. Inuit mental training includes visualization techniques that modern psychologists would recognize as guided meditation. Children learn to imagine warmth spreading through their limbs and core, creating a mental barrier against the cold. These techniques are passed down alongside physical survival skills, reinforcing the belief that the mind and body are equally vital in dangerous conditions. Panic in extreme cold can be deadly. It increases respiration and heart rate, causing the body to lose heat more rapidly. That's why Inuit survival culture places such value on emotional steadiness. A calm mind not only keeps you warmer, it helps you think clearly. Storytelling plays a vital role in this mental framework. Before sleep, families often share tales of ancestors who endured storms and long, dark journeys. These stories act as both comfort and inspiration, connecting younger generations to a legacy of strength. Long before mindfulness apps or motivational podcasts, the Inuit found peace and courage in shared memory. This psychological strength is matched by something even more remarkable: physical adaptation. Generations of Arctic life have shaped the Inuit body in ways that improve cold tolerance naturally. Research has shown that many Inuit maintain a slightly elevated core temperature, about 1 degree Fahrenheit higher than individuals from warmer climates. Their metabolic rates are also roughly 20% faster, meaning they produce more internal heat, even at rest. These small but crucial differences help the body resist the cold from within. There's also a distinct difference in how their blood vessels react to freezing temperatures. Instead of tightly constricting in the hands and feet, as happens in most people, Inuit extremities maintain better circulation. This allows more warm blood to reach vulnerable fingers and toes. These advantages are both inherited and developed through life. Even within a single generation, regular cold exposure can shift the body's responses. Over time, the body increases its production of brown fat, specialized tissue that burns calories to produce heat rather than store energy. This adaptation doesn't require centuries of evolution. It can happen slowly with consistent exposure and practice. It's this mix of biology and behavior, of inherited traits and learned discipline, that gives the Inuit an edge where few could survive. Together, these tools and techniques form a complete system, one built not in labs, but in snow shelters, around fires, and through countless Arctic nights. Strategic sleep positioning, breathable layers, moisture management, heat from stone or dog, and mental clarity, each part supports the others. That's how the Inuit transformed the impossible act of sleeping at -64 degrees Fahrenheit into a nightly routine. Not a luxury, not a hardship, just life. No smart bed, memory foam, or climate-controlled bedroom required. Just wisdom, passed down like a warm blanket through generations. Now that's the ultimate sleep system.